What is up, everybody? It's your girl Jada Reeds here, aka Diamond, and welcome to my channel. Today I have a special video for you guys. This video will kind of take you into like a peek of like some of my all-time favorite books that you might not have heard me speak of. And these are basically books that I can reread over and over and over again. Also, these are also books I wish that I could read again for the first time. So it's like a little double type of video situation. So these are books that I wish I could read for the first time all over again, and also books that I will be rereading for the rest of my life. And that's just that. But first, if this is your first time seeing my face or knowing of my existence, my name is Diamond and I go by Jada Reeds over here on this channel. And over here I like to do reading vlogs, book reviews, and everything in between. So if that is something that you're interested in, I think you should consider subscribing. All right, so what I want to start with, these are in no particular order. All of these are some of my most favorite books that I've ever read in my life. So we'll first start with My Brilliant Friend by Miss Elena Ferrante. You know, this book is a hit or miss for a lot of people, but for me, it's most definitely a hit. I also have a reading vlog on this book, and I will have it linked, you know, above. So I wanted to just go ahead and just talk about what this is about. So you have two friends. You have Linu and you have Leela, and you follow them from the age of like 6. And this particular novel in the quartet stops at the age of 15 or 16 with both of the girls. And you learn about their home life, how they grew up with one another, the woes of being impoverished, the woes of being women around that time period, patriarchy, misogyny, and what a dynamic between two girls growing up in that environment would look like. For reference, they are in Naples, Italy, and this book is translated from the Italian. And so the reason why it's one of my most favorite books that I wish I could reread for the first time, and that I will be rereading over and over again, is because the language, first of all. So aside from the story, the way that this book is written and the way that it made me feel in reading it opened up my eyes to just a whole new way of thinking, to be honest with you. If you are someone who seeks knowledge when you're reading, and you also seek to understand human behaviors and the aspects of just being a girl or a person, a woman, like I said in one of my other videos, speaking of Elena Ferrante, even talking about those like intricate details as far as like puberty is concerned, it's hinted at and written about really well in this book. And I also like the dynamic that Elena Ferrante chose to write regarding Leela, or Linu and Leela. They are best friends, but it's not all peaches and cream. You know, it's not all flowers and rainbows. It's definitely some hard times that they go through with one another. It's definitely jealousy embedded in this novel. It's definitely rage in this novel. It's just a poignant tale about two girls growing up, honestly. And I've read two of the books out of this quartet, and I will be reading the third installment this year. So I'm really looking forward to getting back and hopping back into the world of Linu and Leela. But the book just really resonated with me in such a deep and detailed way. I have so many pages underlined. I mean, not pages, but I have so many passages underlined in this book. And I think I want to read this one. When I bracket an entire paragraph, that means that the paragraph really resonated with me. So I'm going to just start right here. Instead, she said seriously, it's better that way. She was as slender as ever, but tense in every fiber. I looked at her hands and marveled. In a short time, they had become like Reno's, like her father's, with the skin at the tips yellowish and thick. Even if no one forced her, that wasn't her job in the shop. She had started to do small tasks. She prepared the thread, took out stitches, glued, even stitched, and now she handled Fernando's tools almost like her brother. That was why that year she never asked me anything about Latin. Eventually, she told me the plan she had in mind, a thing that had nothing to do with the books. She was trying to persuade her father to make new shoes, but Fernando didn't want to hear about it. Making shoes by hand, he told her, is an art without a future. Today, there are cars, and cars cost money, and the money is either in the bank or with the loan sharks, not in pockets of the Cerullo family. So that was an interesting passage for me, because that sets the forefront of what's happening between Lila and Linu. That passage basically depicts the dreams of Lila fading and dwindling, because she has been forced now to stop going to school and start working with the family at the family business. And it just sets the stage for what is to follow. And I don't know, I just feel like this book is very misunderstood by a lot of people, because a lot of people really didn't like it, and it doesn't grind my gears, because every book is subjective, and it's whatever perspective you're reading through or reading from, that's going to determine if you like the book or not. It's not that it's not, I don't think that they think that Elena Ferrante is a bad writer or her stories are not compelling. I just think depending on the stage in life you're reading the novel, that's going to determine if you like it as much as the next person. So I don't know. This is basically me calling myself, like, saying like this is an amazing book and everyone should love it, basically. And I know that's not the case. That's never going to be the case, but I love it so much, and I really like these girls, and they're a huge part of my life, my reading life. So yeah, let's move on to the next novel. So we're gonna take it way back in time for this next book. I frequently revisit my Shel Silverstein collection, but Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein is my absolute favorite. Where the Sidewalk Ends just holds a special place in my heart. Of course, I read this for the first time as a kid. It was originally published in 1974, and Shel Silverstein is a very prolific author, cartoonist, illustrator. I think he did other things in his career, but he did really well with children's books regarding his poetry and his book, The Giving Tree. It was one of my favorite books of all time when it was first published. But anyway, this book of poetry, it just does something to my spirit. You know, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling upset, when you're feeling sad, you don't know which way to go. Of course, we turn to God and spirituality and prayer, but sometimes you just need a little pick-me-up, and you need to be reminded of those giddy feelings that you felt when you were a kid. A lot of times as adults, we have so many things going on in life, we sort of forget that that innocence. We of course have lost our innocence because we've been exposed to so many things, but sometimes when you can go back to something that will literally transform or teleport you back into when you were a kid, that could be like, that could make or break your day. Not break your day, but it can make your day. And so that's what where the sidewalk ends, that's what it does for me. And so I have several absolute favorite poems, and I'm gonna read one. Like, almost all of them are my favorite. Do I want to do Sick? No, Sick is too long. Let's do For Sale. And also, like, look at the illustrations. Shel Silverstein also drew these. He did all of his own illustrating. He was really a rebel, Shel Silverstein. And in reading his poetry, as a kid especially, it kind of gave me the idea of, you know, I had choices other than the choices that my parents were giving me. You know, at some time or another, you kind of feel like you don't have a choice. You can't say no, or you can't question things. And so a lot of the takeaways from reading Shel Silverstein, in my mind, I would never regurgitate it out loud, but I knew when I was reading him, or later on, I started to realize that, you know, I actually have options. I have a choice. I have a say so. I have autonomy, you know, and so that's just a takeaway from Shel Silverstein as an author in general. But I'm going to read For Sale and we're going to move on. So, For Sale. One sister for sale, one sister for sale, one crying and spying young sister for sale. I'm really not kidding, so who'll start the bidding? Do I hear $1, a nickel, a penny? Oh, isn't there any one kid who will buy this old sister for sale? This crying and spying young sister for sale? I love it. It makes you feel like, you know, you don't have to like your little sister. You love her though, and that too, like the not liking her will pass, but it's a normal feeling to be annoyed by a sibling. You know, I just love this. It really makes me feel like a kid again whenever I go back to this poetry collection. And it's some of the most compelling poetry ever, and it's so simple. And anyone that has children, also I used to read these to my daughter when she was a little baby and when she was a toddler, even into like kindergarten and first grade, I used to read these to her. And they stuck with her also. She still remembers them so much. She talks about them all the time. So these are very good. I think you should invest in the collection for yourself also. And so yeah, that is Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. All right, so now we're gonna go to one of the rest of these are my favorite books over the more recent years. And so we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I like this a lot. It was really intense. It was really intense to read it, but in a really good way. I distinctly remember the atmosphere of my life mimicking sort of the atmosphere of the novel. I did choose to read this in the fall winter time, and so it was just perfect. So this follows a group of friends who are studying Greek and the classics at a college in a small town in Vermont, and it is about those friends, as I stated before, and it's a very interesting story. So you have this one friend who doesn't quite fit in with them, but because he's studying the exact same things as this other group, he's like sort of on the outside as the novel starts, and then he's like infiltrates into their life. It's really reminiscent of Saltburn. If you guys watch Saltburn and you can like, if you feel what I'm saying about Saltburn and The Secret History, let me know in the comments. But it's kind of like that, where you have this sort of outsider and he's really smart and quiet, and because he's studying the same thing as this other group, they all like turn into friends together, and it follows their journey as friends. And then some other odd things start to take place, and that's when you get the story. And so the way Donna writes the story in general is really interesting, and it's really engulfing, and it's really good. That's the main thing about it. I just liked how I felt whenever I would pick this book up. I'll keep all the books that I'm currently reading, I keep them right on the side of my bed. And whenever like the day has settled, everyone has eaten, I've had my bath, I'm ready to just go to sleep or read before bed, I would be so excited to pick this book up and read it. Like, it's so good. It's like one of those. Sometimes books, it's not about like what the words actually say. It's really just about how the book makes you feel. And I was just as excited to pick this book up as I was to watch Bridgerton. Like when I was first watching Bridgerton, that's one of the better shows that I had watched over the years that had me really excited to look at it, you know what I'm saying, and see what's gonna happen next. So it's like that with this book. It's not so much special as far as just like, oh, this super, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but the writing is just fine. You know, it's the story itself is actually the driving force. The plot is the driving force of a novel like this. And it had been a long time before I read this. It had been a long time where I was really excited about a story with the plot. I read a lot of literary fiction where nothing really happens. And so I'm just like taking in all of the wording, and I'm just like letting it sink in and like kind of change me over time. That's the type of stuff that I normally read. So when I decided to read this, I was super into it, and that's why I wish I could read it for the first time again, and I'll definitely be rereading it over and over, because it was just, I just remember the feeling. the feeling that was, I'm reading The Secret History. I remember. And so yeah, love it. Next we have Stoner by John Williams. This is another one that took my breath away. I absolutely love it. I've seen a lot of videos, not a lot, but a few, where they kind of call it the perfect novel. I'm not gonna say it's the perfect novel, because that would like suggest that any other book that doesn't follow one life of one man over the span of 20-30 years is not good. So I'm not gonna call it the perfect novel, but for the genre that is fiction, and specifically stories that follow a life from teenagedom to the end, it is very much one that will stand the test of time. I will say that. And so this is about William Stoner. So it's written by John Williams, and it's about William Stoner. And it is about him going off to college and finding himself. First studying one thing and moving into a whole nother field. And I think mainly why this book resonates with a lot of people is because naturally you're told to study things that will make you money, you know, stuff like becoming a nurse or becoming a doctor or business and yada yada yada. And so his family owned a farm, and they felt like, okay, well, we'll send you to school to study agriculture because things are definitely going to change over time. And he goes to school to study agriculture. Then he starts to switch over because he read some stuff in college along the lines of like Shakespearean literature, the Shakespeare plays and poems, and he fell in love and he completely switched his major over. And then that so goes the story, and you follow the trajectory of his life from that decision and all other decisions that just make up a life. And it also, I think this book is so intense and resonated so much with me because at the time that I read it, and even now, you know, you just have these feelings about life in general. And is your life going the way that you felt like it would go? Are you grieving the life that you thought that you would have? What is a life? And even if you're not living this grandiose life that is like so much plastered on the internet right now of all of the things that people are doing and the experiences that people are having, even though you're not having those experiences, who is to say your life was not the one that in which that, you know, fulfilled you? So it begs those types of questions for the reader to answer, or those are the type of questions that I took from this novel, and it just really resonated with me in that way because, you know, it was just a life, but you could tell that he was fulfilled at the end, or that's what I took from it. And it made me look at my own life and decide that, you know, it's really good. You know, I'm content. It's a study on contentment. It's a study on relationship, friendship, love, not motherhood, but parenthood, fatherhood, and all the things in between. It was just really good, very reflective, very quiet, very much all the things that I just said. So yeah, I love this book so much, and I'll be giving it a reread really soon. And the last book that I wish that I could reread for the first time, I wish that, I wish. I love this book so much also. I love all these books that I just talked about, but this one in particular really holds a special place in my heart. I also have a reading blog on it, and it is Pure Nissy by Susanna Clark. And this book is good. That's all I'm gonna say about that. No, it's not all I'm gonna say. But this is a really good book too. It is a fantasy. Isn't it considered a fantasy? It's considered a fantasy for sure because of everything that happens in such a short, you know, fiction fantasy. This is about Pure Nissy. And that's all I'm gonna say because honestly, I'm a spoiler type girl. Excuse me, I'm such a spoiler type of girl, but I think you understand that like by watching my vlogs. This isn't a vlog, this is a listy type recommendation type video, so I'm not gonna spoil it. because this one is just that good, and any type of information that you give will literally ruin the plot. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that courtesy, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but I will talk about how this book, why it's on this list, and why and what it made me feel. And so I really enjoy the sense of wonder. I ask a lot of questions in my daily life. I ask a lot of questions about typically just generally everything. At my big age of 32, nothing goes unquestioned, nothing goes unnoticed. Take with that what you will. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing, whatever the case may be, but I enjoy wondering about things and being able to figure stuff out. And so that's what this book gave me. And also, as the story unfolds and as you start to learn more and more about his story, about Père Nissy's story, you also just start to really fall in love with him as this person. As gullible as he is so innocent. And so it brings me back to even like the story or the poetry collection of Where the Sidewalk Ends. I think there's a part of me that yearns for my innocence back. Learning new things about the world and understanding how everything has been smoke and mirrors, and like so many things are being unleashed and unveiled. I mean, you can't miss it. If you're a human, you know what's going on in the entertainment business right now. And so much of my life was on that, on Nickelodeon, on the music business, the music industry. And so I think about those things and I tie them to this story because that is just reminiscent of that. You know, he had to go through a lot of things to understand that he was being very gullible. It's just about just being gullible and very vulnerable and being a good person and hoping that that's how people are toward you, and then learning that that's just not the way the world works. You just fall in love with this book. And of course I'm being very vague, but that is one reason why I will never forget this book, because it resonates with me in my adulthood and how my innocence is lost, and I wish that I could just have it back. You know, some things I wish were not revealed to me. That's just my perception. I wish I could talk more about this book. I do not have a book club to be able to really talk about what I really am saying, what I'm really feeling, what I'm really thinking, because I don't want to give the story away, but it's just so good. So if you have not read Père Nissy, I think you should consider reading Père Nissy, because it's one for the books. You know, it starts off slow. First 50 to 60 pages are very slow, but they are there, of course, for a reason. Take it all in. I'm gonna say, if you read this book, you're gonna absolutely love it. So I would take my time if I were you. But because it starts off slow and you're trying to really get to the parts that are really interesting and vivid and visceral, you read through, and then once you finally hit that like page 65-ish, everything started going so fast, and by the time you realize it, you're done with the book and you wish you could start it all over again, which is why it's on the list. So yeah, that's that. So these are the books, hun. These are the books that I wish that I could read for the first time and that I will reread for the rest of my life. They're so good. They're so good. So yeah. All right. Tell me a couple of books in the comment section about, or that you wish you could read for the first time and that you will continue to read for the foreseeable future. All right, y'all. Until next time, that's that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next upload. Deuces.